Welcome to the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicast in partnership with Vertical Valor Magazine. In this two-part series, Jack Schonely and I have an opportunity to talk with Sergeant Chris Duffield and Officer Mikey Machin from the York Regional Police Air Support Unit.
We're still trying to covertly follow them while our resources are responding. We got surveillance units coming, we got the robbery squad coming, canines coming, tax coming, everybody's coming, but they need time to get there. And sure enough, these guys, they go to Scotiabank, a popular Canadian bank, just as the resources are arriving. And they don't have time to do a takedown before because everybody's kind of getting into place. So the plan is like, all right, don't do anything in the bank, wait till they come out and we'll take them. And sure enough, they pull up to the front doors, in they go, all four of them, masked up, guns out, violent takeover style robberies.
During the conversation, we discussed the evolution of their air support unit, the importance of integrated training, and the value of debriefing in law enforcement. The conversation highlights the significance of proactive policing, the role of technology, and the camaraderie within police culture. Additionally, Mikey shares the story behind his nickname, Bobby Big Time, which was born during a successful operation, showing the impact and effectiveness of a great air support unit. We also have an opportunity to talk about the significance of promoting from within and learning from industry leaders to enhance operational effectiveness. Thank you to our sponsors, Anodyne Electronics Manufacturing, BLR Aerospace, and Shotover.
Welcome to the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts. The Hangar Z podcast is the first and only podcast dedicated to promoting and exploring the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation.
Still southbound, skidding to a stop. Stand by here. Looks like they're getting ready to bail. Heads up, guys, bailing. Okay, the guy, he's running through the house, jumping the fence, through the shotgun, through something out. Grabbing the shotgun. Don't go over that fence. Don't go over that fence. Grab the shotgun again. He is armed. Stay there. Hold your position.
Hey, welcome to Hangar Z podcast. I'm your host, John Gray. Here to have a really, really cool conversation with the York Regional Police folks that we've been talking about having for quite a while. Our editor-producer, Rob Reno, actually came across a video that he was really interested in. It was a really good piece of work showcasing the good work that the York Regional folks are doing up in the greater Toronto area of Canada. But he reached out and said, hey, what about having these guys on? And I said, well, Rob, that's a really good idea. So I reached out, and Chris, one of our guests, we had on previously. We had him on last year, and the content and the purpose of that recording was to discuss some upcoming training that you guys are going to have. You're going to have the APSA safety stand to up in Calgary, which Clay came up and taught at. So I reached out to Chris and said, hey, would you be willing to come back on and talk about what you guys are doing in greater detail? Because our first conversation was really interesting, talking about your RPAS operations and just the overall operations you have going on in your area. So excited to have you on, and Mikey's one of your top TFOs. Reading through his background, really impressive. So excited to have the York Regional Police folks on the podcast. And then, of course, we have the commander, Jack Schonely. How you doing, sir?
Doing good, John. Good to have Chris back and bringing Mikey along to learn more. This is great.
Yeah. Jack smiles and laughs every time I call him the commander. And
I shake my head. That's what I do, John.
It's caught on. All the emails that I see coming internally and externally refer to Jack as the commander. It makes me happy.
Glad to make somebody happy, John.
Well, gentlemen, again, thank you for joining us on the podcast again. Chris, let's start with you, and then we'll switch to Mikey. But can you just introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into law enforcement.
Sure. So I'm Chris Duffield. I'm the sergeant in our air support unit for York Region. I've been in the air support unit on and off, but for the better part of 15 years doing the air support thing. Prior to that, I was on the road doing uniform patrol for about 4 years. And before that, I did 9 years as an avionics specialist in the Canadian Air Force, working on the Hercules aircraft. So I do have a background in aviation prior to becoming a police officer. I did start flying when I was 15 years old, achieving my private pilot's license. So yeah, I've always had an interest in aviation, and once I got into policing, it seemed to be the way to go for me. And becoming a TFO in the unit, and then now the supervisor of that unit.
Yeah, how cool. Take it back to 15 years old. There's not too many guests we've had on the podcast that they got their private pilot at 15.
I didn't get the license at 15. I started it. It does take time. Yeah.
It does take time. And we had a guest who I believe he got his rotorcraft certificate at 15.
Oh.
And we're like, how is
16 when you're allowed to?
Right.
How is that even possible? You know? So really cool that you did that, and that early passion you have for aviation is super obvious through that. Interested to hear more in detail about how the unit's changed over the course of the 15 years you've been involved. You've changed the unit for the better, and it'll be interesting to talk about not only what's happened with the manned side, but the unmanned side as well, which we talked about in that initial episode that you were on, which were episodes 194 and 195. Before we talk about what you guys are doing now, let's go back to the training that you guys had in Calgary last year through APSA and what your experience was.
It was a great experience. I mean, since COVID, a lot of our APSA, I guess we could say, Airborne Public Safety Association, safety stand twos were always online, and they're always virtual. So about 4 years of virtual stuff. It was nice to finally do an in-person event out in Calgary last year. And hats off to Kyle, the Canadian Region Director, for setting that up and doing that. The one issue with the Canadian region is it's such an expansive landmass, right? So to get everybody in one place is so difficult, especially just for a one-day event. So again, Kyle stepped up with his organization, and we put together a 2-day event for that. So it was great. It was like you're able to draw in more people now. They're not just flying out for one day. You get more buy-in from their management and their senior leaders to send them out for a couple of days. And the training program that they set up, that Kyle came up with, we had RPAS stuff. We had K9 tactics with the RPAS. We talked about a lot of debriefs within other agencies, Edmonton Police, Saskatoon Police. And the debriefs is where you really, really learn what works and what doesn't work, and how to improve on that to make things better and safer and more efficient for everyone. So even in the RPAS world, I mean, it's fairly new. And when I say RPAS, I guess I can elaborate on that. It's basically unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs. I call them so many things: drones, UAVs, RPAS. I guess our politically correct term would be RPAS here in Canada. So the RPAS side, like the program they ran for that first day, we did actually separate the traditional aircraft from the RPAS in 2 separate classrooms. And so they could focus a lot of the RPAS stuff on one side, and then the traditional aircraft on the other side. And then the second day, which is when Clay Lacey came up to do his thing, we grouped everybody back together, along with a bunch of K9 officers from the area as well, from other jurisdictions around the Calgary area, because there's so much information there that Clay brings up. I've listened to Clay several times over and over and over again, and it never gets old. What an amazing instructor. Very animated. Keeps the audience captive, but he has a lot of great points and a lot of good stuff to bring forward to everybody. So yeah, it was a great event. I would say, like, we have on average about 160 members in Canada, and I would say about 80% of them were there for that in-person event. So after a few years of virtual sessions, we finally did an in-person session, and we usually draw a large crowd for that. And then I think the plan is to continue this, but every other year we'll do that. So we'll do a virtual one probably this year, and then back to an in-person next year, just to make it more manageable for everyone. And the other thing from these stand twos, it's just, I can't say enough about the vendors that step up and help out and help us support us to hold these events and these training sessions. They do a great job, and we probably wouldn't be able to do much without them. So we really appreciate that.
Yeah, the community support's huge. For the events like that, for our podcast, they make these things possible. So it's a huge shout out to them for doing that. Going back to what you talked about, having K9 RPAS operations and manned aviation under the same roof training, I think is really critical. And these are the 3 units that work together all the time. So to be under the same roof, hearing the same level of instruction, I think is great. And to bring someone like Clay Lacey in is gold. As we record this, we're getting ready to go to Echo 2025, which is going to be in Louisville, and Clay and Jack are going to teach on the same stage for the first time together. I'm really excited about that, as both Clay and Jack have very similar topics, but presented in a much different way. So it'll be really cool to see the two of them go back and forth. And just like you, we've got a diverse audience that includes canine handlers and manned aviation folks and some drone operators as well. So again, anytime you can get those three folks under the same roof, getting the same training, I think is really critical. And I'm excited to hear how you have integrated the RPAS or drone operations in your unit. We'll dig into that as we go. But Jack, do you want to talk about some of your anticipations for the class and kind of in the theme of what we're talking about?
Well, I like that. I like that Chris liked that you get the three groups together. You know, it just makes sense if you're going to be working together on real life scenarios. You've got to train together. You've got to be on the same page of music. You got to be talking the same language. So if you're not training together, that's not going to happen when it hits the fan. And now you're out there and there's dogs searching and there's drones flying and there's manned aircraft there. And now you're winging it. Not going to work. You might get some things done, but it's not going to be efficient and it probably won't be effective. So I love that, like both of you just said, that when you get the three groups under the same tent talking, you're going to have success when it happens, and it's going to happen. So we're happy that that training turned out the way it did. We were anticipating it with the Canadian panel last time, and all of you were so excited about it. That's what I walked away from our conversation. Man, these guys are excited to get together and see each other in person, talking about the thing that they do every day. So that pumped us up. We were like, yeah, man, we'd love to be there for that. And I'm not surprised, Chris, at all that you said it was a great success.
Mikey, switching over to you. I want to hear your take on the training if you had a chance to be there. But first, let's go back to kind of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, certainly. First of all, thanks for having me on the show. Big fan of the show. Quite an honor to be here talking to you guys. So I was born in York Region, raised in York Region, and lifelong dreams of becoming a police officer for York Regional Police. Started on the job pretty young, 21 years old, and since then I've got about 12 years on, and started in uniform patrol, as many officers do. And prior to joining the Air Support unit, I had some good experiences working with different units, doing some things I can talk about, some things I can't, and both on the covert and uniform side. But I've always been interested in aviation, just kind of as a passion or a hobby, going to air shows and just really, really interested in aircraft. So to kind of combine my passion for policing and flying into one is just the ultimate crossover episode. Been involved with the Air Support unit for about 7 years now, starting part-time and progressing into a full-time role. And it's good to be happy here. Like, love every day like it was the first day still.
Yeah, that feeling is cool. It's kind of a bummer when one day you realize, like, man, I lost that feeling, and then you get a rider in the back seat, and they're like, "This is the coolest job ever," and you're like, "Oh, it is," and
absolutely,
it's nice to get that reminder every once in a while, because at some point it becomes a job and you forget, but then again you get that reminder, like, oh, this is absolutely amazing. So really cool that from a young age you found the passion to go into law enforcement and in that aviation mixture, and then you found yourself to aviation, and here you are, as a TFO leading the unit. That's really cool.
Yes, sir. Very, very lucky. I didn't have any family in law enforcement, but I did have extremely supportive family who just kind of let me choose my own path and supported me every step of the way. And so I'm the first in the family, and we'll see if there's more to come.
Yeah, that's cool. But did you have a chance to go to Calgary for the training last year?
Unfortunately, I didn't. I didn't.
Okay.
Some of us had to stay back and, stay operational while the others went and had fun.
No, you're not rubbing that in or anything, oh, Mikey.
Yeah.
I'm sure you had fun.
Yeah.
That was very diplomatic. I like it. Chris, back to you then for the training itself. Since that training has taken place, have you and your agency or any of the agencies that were present, have you heard any stories or takeaways from the training that actually led to the successful apprehension of a suspect from that incident that was kind of directly from that training?
I don't think, nothing in particular, but there were a couple debriefs that we did learn from, and there had been a couple of situations that did arise that were similar in nature, and we were able to sort of act on those a little bit differently, taking away the feedback from the group, because essentially, like, what it is a situation where you might have to land and pick somebody up or do a medical treatment on somebody. Is it more beneficial to do this, or is it more beneficial to stay with the suspect, or just having those discussions? So there's been a couple situations that have arose in our region following that training event where we were able to go, okay, it didn't work here for them, so we're not going to do that. We're going to try this one. And then it worked out better for us in the end. So there's been a couple not non-specific situations, but we always get a takeaway coming from these events, and we always get together for our unit training days. We, quarterly, the whole unit gets together. We debrief these things. We discuss these things. What might have worked for somebody else may not work for us, and vice versa. So, we do learn from these things, and there's been a couple situations that we were able to provide a more efficient service following that.
And those trainings and the conversations we're having here is our hope is to spin some conversation off, between you and your air crews, and in the hopes that you guys talk about something in advance of a major incident, and that conversation actually helps you successfully complete whatever mission is that you were a part of, or at least help you, and I think thinking through a lot of this stuff is so important before actually having done that thing. We always talk about not wanting the first time to do when we're doing something is actually the first time you're doing it. You've at least thought about it or even practiced that. I think that's huge. Jack, for you guys, when it came to debriefs and stuff, how did you guys take the information that came out of the debriefs and apply it as an agency to help, make yourselves more efficient, effective?
Thank you to our sponsor, Shotover. Shotover Systems is the leading developer and manufacturer of high-performance gyro-stabilized cameras with advanced real-time AR mapping and mission management, all backed by unparalleled custom training and support. Now offering the M2 multi-sensor system, sole 6-axis EO-IR platform with 4K Ultra HD color and infrared technology. Ideal for law enforcement and defense. Offered with real-time AR overlays to quickly identify streets, weather, and traffic. Automated license plate recognition, 24 megapixel digital photographs, and automated steering and tracking.
As an agency, we were terrible at it. As a unit, as individual units, we were good at it. SWAT was really good at it. K9, very good at it. Air support, pretty good at it. But agency-wise, terrible. They just didn't apply it the way they should have. And we've had so many guests, John. I mean, think of them from military and law enforcement that talk about debriefing where they just love the debrief. I mean, particularly like the Scott Moyer from the Blue Angels, our fighter pilots have talked about that, but law enforcement talks about it all the time. It's the best training tool there is. It's free. That's the best part. When you can get training for free, why wouldn't you jump at that? So the debriefs are great. Yeah. Debriefing an incident in a cockpit, debriefing an incident with the people that you served, the customers that you had. I was a true believer in that, and it's underutilized. Even the departments say we do it a lot. When you dig a little bit deeper, some of them aren't doing it even close to enough. Where they say they're doing it, but are they doing it the right way?
Yeah.
And are they doing it often? And that's where it has to be both. It has to be the right way, where you're parking your ego at the door, admitting your own mistakes, all the stuff we've talked about all the time. And then sharing the debriefs at like a stand to. I mean, that's so smart. everybody in Canada now knows about a certain incident from that day. How great is that?
Yeah.
Because like you said, Chris, there's been other incidents similar. They're no two are alike, but there's similarities, and you've already done the thinking about it because it came up at a training day, and you said, "Wow, that happened wherever. Well, that could happen to me too." I talk about the what ifs all the time. You should be what ifing constantly.
Yep.
And visualizing what would I do if that was me, whether it's watching a YouTube video of an officer involved shooting or a pursuit, or whatever it is, visualizing what you would do, how you would do it, what you would say, especially as a TFO, really, really important.
Yeah.
Really important.
100% agree. And, air support, oftentimes we find ourselves in a situation where we're physically detached from the police department, and we're often not able to physically attend the debriefs that are taking place, if there is one. What I've talked about quite a few times now, and I'll bring it up again, is, this technology we've got through Zoom and Google Meet and all the other platforms where you can at least listen in and see a video feed remotely. It's that technology is widely available, so we should be utilizing that for the benefit of these debriefs.
Yeah.
So in the spirit of this conversation on debriefs, I wanted to bring up a question to you guys, which I'd like to ask about impactful incidents that you've been a part of, but I want to change it a bit to talk about impactful debriefs that you may have been a part of, whether it was your own agency or one you may have heard at Calgary or somewhere else that kind of impacted your thought process and maybe changed some of the ways you go about doing things. So Chris or Mikey, do you guys have something that comes to mind that kind of fits that description?
I think so. I would say probably the most impactful debrief that we've had following a situation was a suspect apprehension situation. We had a suspect that it was a street level robbery. I can't remember what was taken. Probably nothing really of much value. The suspect fled into a backyard, into a neighborhood, residential neighborhood. We had a perimeter set up. It was beautiful. The suspect was locked down. We moved in with the helicopter. We had K9 on scene, trying the track. We located the suspect in the backyard, and I was training a TFO at the time, not Mikey. And basically we just said, the suspect's behind 123 Main Street or whatever it might have been. Well, where did all the perimeter cars go? They all took off and went right to where the suspect was. And that was a big takeaway on that. We debriefed it with the platoon at the end of the day because we ended up getting the suspect, but it just ended up being a chase back and forth through the neighborhood, as opposed to just, coming up with a better tactic of just saying, maybe somebody should go here and not really say why until they're getting close. And then, okay, we got the suspect. We're not, so-and-so move here, so-and-so move there. Everybody else stay where you are. So little things like that. So that would probably be one of the most impactful debriefs that I had with K9, the platoon themselves. And it all stems back down to perimeters. I mean, that's gold in what we do. And if you don't have a good perimeter, you're just going to be chasing all night long, and it just doesn't work.
Well, I got a couple of questions about that. So how was it received? You obviously were involved from the air. You saw that this is a very, something simple became a little bit more complicated, and you're going to be critical of the actions of people that are your customers.
Right.
How did you present it, and how was it received?
Well, so you have to take a little bit of, you got to take a lot of the heat on yourself too, right? Like it wasn't necessarily their fault. So you would basically walk in there and just say, look, I may have said something that I probably shouldn't have, which sparked you to do this or, instigated this. I learned from that, or the TFO I was training learned from that. Basically, you're not putting blame on anybody in particular. You're just using that situation to improve on. Like, it's nobody's fault about what happened, right? And that's the first way you would really approach it is you're not putting blame out there. It was nobody's fault that we ended up chasing for another half an hour when it could have been resolved in 10 minutes, right? So it's just a matter of not putting blame on anybody. I think that's the key. Yeah.
That's really good. And looking at yourself first, saying, hey, we could have, as a crew, said something differently. I think that's the smart move. You look at yourself first, you critique yourself to show that, hey, we're all in this together. I'm going to be critical of myself. And now I'm going to tell you that you guys maybe shouldn't have done this, and it'll come across better. Other question on that is, did you change anything policy-wise, practice-wise from that? I mean, was what at the end of the debrief, how did it kind of end? Did everybody just kind of walk away on their own things, or did you say, okay, this is how we're going to solve this next time? We are going to do this, and you aren't going to do that? What was it? Something definitive, or just kind of learning and walking away?
Unfortunately, it's probably more of a learn and walk away. Like, there was no policy or procedure change. Maybe our training, we would have debriefed it as a whole unit, air support wise, to talk about how can we prevent, for example, the platoon, like the patrol officers, the uniform officers out there. How can we help them not necessarily make mistakes, but how can we help them and guide them a little bit better when we're trying to do this? So we would take that back to ourselves.
Yeah, and specifically, we are, from that incident, training our new TFOs. We're training them that, hey, when you have a FLIR find or something, don't blurt it out right away. Don't even tell anyone where it is. You start looking at your perimeter cars, positioning your chess pieces. You get all your ducks in a row. You let them know you got something you like, but you wait until everything's squared away first, and then you can carefully walk them in. Because I remember being a new TFO too. The second you find that guy, you have that instinct that he's going to get up and run. We got to get him now. But that's not the case. So definitely the way we're training our new TFOs now from that incident is different.
Yeah. And I'll give you guys, I'll share something and share for our listeners and watchers, is that one thing that we did, because we knew officers are going to do that, what you described. If we describe something that's moving, or they all want to cave in the perimeter and go after it, it's because that's why they joined, right? That's why they joined up. They want to catch the bad guy. We would make a final announcement to everybody on scene. Okay, the K-9's about to start their search. Everybody hold your positions. Even if there's shots fired or suspect moving, hold your perimeter positions unless directed to move by a K-9 handler or an air crew. And we just put that seed, we planted that seed before we even found somebody in the FLIR, to remind them that one of the rules of perimeters is you hold the perimeter no matter what. I mean, you hold it no matter what's happening on inside, because if you give up your spot, that could be the weak point now where the guy gets out. And we knew that our patrol officers knew that. But as an air crew, we gave them that last little final reminder, to just say, hey, just by the way, guys. And we found that worked pretty good. Now, that's not to say that it didn't happen just like you described, Chris. Even, when something explodes in that perimeter, patrol officers want to run in there. But it happened less because of that reminder. And then, talking about it at roll calls and at training days and saying, hey, don't forget, guys, if we find something, that there's a search team that's going into that. Not all of you. You need to hold the perimeter. Number one, it might not be our suspect. Number two, as they're approaching, he might take off running. If you give up your spot, now he's out of the perimeter. And now what do we have? We're starting back at square one. So I love how you approached it, Chris. I love how the walk, how it changed things from what Mikey brought up. And that's why debriefing is so wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. That's it, everybody. That's the show. Debriefing is wonderful.
Yeah. I think one of the things you brought up, Jack, is really important. Reiterating the fact, hold your positions, maintain your perimeter. Because what happens is in most agencies, a lot of young patrol officers are young. So we're constantly onboarding new folks, and the first place they go is patrol. So once they get outside of the supervision of their FTO, then they're left to their own devices. And like Jack said, the first thing they want to do is catch the bad guy. So they're going to do whatever they have to do to catch that bad guy. They may not have had training yet through air support that says, hey, you need to listen to the air crew and just hold your spot. Well, they may not have been indoctrinated to that yet. So they might just take matters in their hands and rush. So I feel like we're in this constant training cycle with our patrol folks because we're constantly getting new patrol officers in the field, which is great. We need those folks, but it's incumbent upon us as an air crew to continue to train. And the training cycles can be tiring, right? You're like, we just trained on this. I've got all these other things to do. I shouldn't have to go and retrain this. Well, I guess that's part of it, right? That's our job is to make sure that everyone's on the same page.
One last thing on this. The other thing that you brought up, Chris, is that it was a success. The guys are in custody at the end. A big mistake about debriefing is, well, they're in custody. We don't have to debrief, right? I mean, it's how a lot of cops think that way. And it's like, no, there's always something to talk about that we could have done better. If you go by success, you're going to miss out on some of the best debriefs because there are mistakes made where we just get lucky or it works out in the end. And people go, well, the guys are in handcuffs. Why do we have to talk about this? Everything went great. Not necessarily. Let's talk about communication. Let's talk about positioning. Let's talk about this. So I love that you started by saying that, Chris, is that it ended up fine. It just took 3 times longer than it would have, had we done it differently. Great approach to it. Great approach to it. I hope everybody's really taken that away from this conversation.
I'll piggyback on that for a second, because just what you brought up, I think, is always challenging. When you see tactics on the ground that are not as safe as they should be or could be, it's challenging sometimes as an air crew to be like, how do we approach this? Do we contact them directly, or do we contact the supervisor? Do we debrief this? What's the best approach? So I like what you did with the debrief. Again, kind of casting some blame on yourself to open the door for that person to check their ego and be like, yeah, I did do that and I could do something better. So thanks for sharing that. Those are challenging. Mikey, for you, is there one that comes to mind that you want to chat about?
I mean, that's kind of the one that Sergeant Duffield brought up was sort of off the top of my head, the answer I had ready for that one.
Sorry, I stole that from you.
Yeah.
That's how good it was.
Yeah, no, all good. Jack, for you, anything that comes to mind over your course of debriefs that was like, that was really powerful and it helped us in some way?
Thanks to our sponsor, AEM. See why the P122 and P132 are the preferred console upgrades for the AS350 H125 Special Mission aircraft. AEM's avionics consoles are a lightweight yet rugged cockpit upgrade for airborne law enforcement and utility operators. Visit aem-corp.com/avionics consoles.
There's so many that we did, but one that I remember was an officer-involved shooting in Wilshire, a huge perimeter. It was probably 20 square blocks, and there was all sorts of issues. The OIS happened at like 06, and now we're into the daylight, and we're out there all day. And at the end, there were some things that happened that were just really strange, that the air crews saw things and the ground folks weren't taking it seriously. Like, hey, I just had 2 guys pop out of a driveway and they're walking down the street. I need somebody to talk to them. They just appeared out of nowhere. Well, that's kind of unique. That was just one of the things that happened. Long story short, they said at the end, we didn't find the guys. And they said, we're going to debrief. Thanks, Air. See ya. And I said, oh, we'll be down in a minute. And we landed on the rooftop helipad at that station. And we showed up. And you should have seen the faces. I'll never forget it. They're like, what are these guys doing here? Oh, that's cool. They were happy to see us, but they were stunned that we would do that and not just go back to base and fuel and have lunch or whatever we're going to do. And it's like, no, this is important. This is a big perimeter. There was some great things that happened, and there were some pathetic things that happened, and we're going to talk about both of them. And it was a valuable debrief. And I think everybody walked away with some information that they would have never had we not landed. We would have gone back to base, and we would not have been involved in that debrief at all. At all. It would have been individualized debriefs where a buddy from SWAT calls you and says, yeah, what the heck was that all about? How did that happen? Or somebody, from patrol calls you. That's how it would have been. That's not the best way to do it. It's got to be part of the team, the group effort. And that was really one that I'll never forget. And I'm proud to say that my partner and I pushed that. I mean, they told us bye, and all of a sudden we landed right. I mean, they were all in the parking lot. We flew right over them. So we interrupted whatever they were saying with our noise and landed on that roof and walked down the steps and were involved. And we got a lot of positive comments out of that at the end. Hey, thanks for doing that. I'm glad you guys did that. From people of rank too, that said, never had a crew do that before. Said, well, this is important. So yeah, that would be mine.
Yeah, I love that. Just the fact that you're at the briefing. Again, it's challenging for us to get there sometimes, but if you can, that's obviously the best scenario. I don't remember the details of the incident, but I do remember making it down to a debrief, and the ground personnel weren't happy with the decision we had made and asked the ground personnel to do during whatever the incident was. So they asked us to come down to the station, and we did. We brought the video that we had shot during the incident. And once they saw the video footage from our perspective of what we were seeing and why we were asking them to do what we did, it made sense to them. So I think that was really powerful for us. And I'd recommend anytime that you do have a debrief, if you have video footage and audio footage to go with that, I think that's gold. Even an internal ICS conversation between you and your pilot or you and your TFO. A lot of times the ground person only hears most of the time they only hear what's broadcast on the radio. They don't understand the decision making that's going on behind the scenes. So having that internal ICS is huge too sometimes, because it shows the mindset and the thought process that goes into what was happening in the aircraft at the time that the TFO said, do this or do that. So this is a really cool offshoot conversation. I appreciate you guys taking the time to go through this, because I do think debriefs are hugely important. Any other things you guys want to touch on before we kind of move on?
I like the way you added the question, John. We ask everybody, what's your most impactful incident? And, maybe we'll talk about that with Mikey and Chris as well. But I love that you said most impactful debrief. Oh man, I didn't see that one coming. And it's great. It's great because we all had something in mind.
Yeah.
And we're adding that to our list of topics now to talk to everybody, because it's valuable. Debriefing is so good.
Yeah. Well, let's go back in time, as Jack says, and discuss your early careers and what kind of wound up in aviation. Chris, going back to you, you had an upbringing in a time where pop culture really positively represented law enforcement. And unfortunately, we're not there anymore. You had Chips and Cops and all these shows that were on TV that really did a good job of portraying our profession in a positive light. Talk about that and essentially how that propelled you into saying, hey, I want to do this job.
Right. Yeah. I can't believe you remembered the pop culture one from last podcast, but yeah. So, my father was a police officer. So naturally I was born right into it. Right. So as I don't remember how old it was when Chips came on the air, California Highway Patrol, motor cops. Right. But I watched every day until that helicopter would come on, because it only came on once or twice, maybe every couple of weeks. But that was it. And I would watch that show just religiously until that helicopter would come on, and that would be the best thing ever, because I said that's what I want to do right there. Now I'm not flying them, but a TFO in it was just as good. But that really had an impact on me was that show. And then of course Airwolf. I mean, that was a fun show to watch. And I think it was more like the technology, like just the fact that the technology on Airwolf, I believe, could see through walls. So we know that's not true. But just having these fancy machines and what they can do and how they can, like, they have a totally different perspective on things on the ground, like the policing, right? So it's not your typical just drive around in police cars and stuff. Like the helicopters really had that. They're really interesting to me. So yes, going back to the pop culture, that really helped steer me in that direction. At the same time, my father was steering me away from that direction. So he did not want me to be a police officer. But then he found sort of the happy medium and said, well, maybe you can still fly, and maybe not a police officer, but, how about flying? And So he took me for a flight when I was like 14, 15 with one of his friends who had a float plane. And that's when I fell in love with it. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is it. This is what I want to do. I want to fly. When I was 15, I did my first intro flight and started my flight training. And then by the time I was 18, 19, I had my pilot's license, and then wanted to get into the Air Force to fly. Unfortunately, didn't have the marks and the education background to get into that stuff. So then I found the next best thing, which was avionics specialist, which are engineering, mechanics, which I loved. And I think that was probably one of the better choices, fixing these things and learning how these things actually operate. The technology and the electronics in them was just fascinating. And yeah, so I did that for 9 years and on the Hercules aircraft. And so aviation was always a thing for me. And then over time, I sort of gravitated back towards the policing side. And by then my dad gave in and I joined as a police officer and did that, for almost 20 years now.
Very cool.
Have you been disappointed that the helicopters you're in now don't go as fast as the Airwolf helicopter?
Well, it feels like it. Yeah, but it is still good.
Once you got to the police department, walk us through your career progression, how you essentially graduated from the academy and where you went from there.
Right. So graduated from police college is what we have up here. Graduated from the college, went to the road for 4 years. So we have classification for constables. So 4th class, 3rd class, 1st class constable. By the time I got to 1st class constable, an opening came up in air support. At that time, there was 1 helicopter, 2 TFOs, and we had contract pilots at that time from a contract agency. So that's all it really was. So there was 1 opening for 2 spots there. And I thought, well, what the heck, I'll apply. We'll see how it is. I mean, I'm 4 years on the job. If I don't get it, at least it's a lesson, that I can improve on or whatever. Fell right into that. Got brought into the air support unit right after 4 years on the road. And that's basically where I've been since. I did cycle out we do have a tenure program, unfortunately, in the unit. So after, at that time, it was 3 to 5 years. 5 years you would normally cycle out. I got a couple of extensions. They kept me in for a couple of years until finally it was my time to cycle out, go back to the road, which was good. It's a good refresher to go back and do some uniform patrol on the ground. And then was there for about a year before coming back into the unit again and trying to fix whatever needed to be fixed and bring it to where it is today.
Do you guys still have a term limit on your assignment?
We do, but we did expand it, actually. It's 5 to 10 years now. So, I mean, it is better, but I would say, like, when you have a specialty unit, when you go into TAC, K9, air support, it's really, really specialized. The amount of money and the training that you put in to those officers, like, to cycle them out after a few years is just detrimental to the unit. And that was part of the reason why I was brought back in. I mean, it worked for me in the end. It brought me back in, but we have increased the tenure up to about 10 years now, which is good.
That's good. I have never ever, and I will never understand the tenure thing. It takes years to learn these positions. I mean, whether it's SWAT, K9, bomb squad, certain detective positions, that are specialized, like homicide. It takes years to where your craft, and now you go, time to go. And now you're gonna put all this money and effort into somebody that knows nothing about it to do it again. It just has never made sense to me. But I mean, I understand why they do it. I just don't understand that they don't see how silly it is in so many aspects. I always hear their justifications and go, well, that may be true, but it takes years to learn these jobs. And I think that's what is missed. So it's great that you were able to cycle back, and I'm glad to hear that the tenure's been lengthened. that's a positive thing for all your specialties.
Yeah. My agency had a 3-year term limit with an optional 4th when I first went up there. And
Insane.
thankfully that they changed that. Now it's at the division unit or division commander's discretion. So you can stay as long as you're performing, you can stay and do the job. Doesn't matter where you're assigned, which is really good. If you decide, hey, I want to promote, I want to go do something different, then that's on you, but you're not forced out. You know, I think we've had this conversation a few times in the past.
Yeah.
So I like that the division commander's given the discretion to keep folks there. You know, aviation and motors and canine, like you said, and TAC, those are the things that are so hard and costly to get people to be fully trained and up to speed on. It doesn't make sense to be like, hey, your clock is done. Let's go do something different. So, yeah, super interesting there. Mikey, changing gears to you. I'm curious to hear, you know, you talk about wanting to go to York Regional as a young man. How did you get exposed to the department, and what was it that kind of drew you to wanting to work there?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when you grow up in that region as a little boy, you're seeing YRP police cars every time you go out with your parents. You know, you go to the grocery store, you see one drive by, and you think, wow, like what do you got to do that for a living? And you know, right away, I was hooked. I wanted to do that. I would introduce myself to every police officer I met on the street. They were always super friendly. And in grade 6, we have a program where grade 6 students, a YRP officer comes to the school and for the year long, you have like a period with this officer who talks about values, influences, and peers. It's called the VIP program, and they really kind of give it to you straight about peer pressure and things you might experience later on as a teenager. I had a lot of respect for the officer that did this program and took his lessons seriously and helped to keep me out of trouble and stay on the right path. And yeah, it was definitely a role model for me as a young man. And then getting into the job, you know, I was still a young man starting out, and I met certain officers and who influenced me. And actually, Sergeant Duffield is one of those guys who's kind of blazed the path and always been a role model and a mentor for me, and helped lead the way to get me where I am today.
And that's a huge compliment, being considered a role model and a mentor. I mean, I think everybody's goal in their careers is to find someone that they can mentor and lead and help improve their career and their life. Really cool that Chris was that person for you. Talk about your progression out of the academy or out of police college and how you ended up getting to aviation.
Thank you to our sponsor, BLR Aerospace. BLR Aerospace's revolutionary fast fin system improves performance and enhances safety across various helicopter platforms. This cutting-edge aftermarket solution improves tail rotor effectiveness, stability, and payload capacity while reducing fuel consumption and pilot fatigue. Trusted globally, FastFin delivers unmatched control, efficiency, and reliabilities for diverse helicopter operations. Learn more at blraerospace.com.
So yeah, I went to Ontario Police College, as all police officers in Ontario do after being hired. After that, I came out onto the road. I worked in a city called Markham, about 350,000 people. And you know, I loved it right away. I loved the action. I loved that every day was different. I felt like, you know, I was really had front row seats to the greatest show on earth. And I think very early on, I knew that I wanted to go to air support. Having a helicopter for our agency is definitely, there aren't too many around. There's a lot more and more coming, and we'll talk probably more about that later. But YRP was known for their chopper and the good work that it does, and I wanted a piece of that. I had a real taste for proactive policing, and I think that sort of helped me get a reputation and get known. And I think that being a proper proactive patrolman certainly helps TFOs immensely, because many officers patrol or call it patrolling, but they're driving around waiting for calls and they're not really taking in their surroundings, or maybe they're seeing things that they're not recognizing or cluing in on. But when you really have a taste for proactive policing and catching criminals when nobody's even called about them yet, and that can translate to being in the helicopter. Like I've always said, being in the helicopter is like giving the proper patrolman like superpowers, right? Like now he's Superman. Now he can fly. Now nobody can get away from him. So my time on the road and being a proactive copper definitely set me up for success in the air support unit.
Yeah, the time you spend getting involved in foot pursuits, vehicle pursuits, all the critical incidents on the ground really allows you then as a TFO to go overhead and understand what that means. And
Yeah.
when you're asking folks to do something, you know what you're asking them to do because you've done it yourself, So
Yeah.
I think that's a critical part of someone's career, going to work in a busy division, given the chance. I think that's really helpful. You brought up something that it's a nice segue. I think I've said it before, the ticket's the greatest show on earth. Like you see the weirdest stuff, good, bad, and indifferent in patrol. Stuff you wish you hadn't seen, stuff that's hilarious, stuff that you'll never forget. I wish I had written down a log of all the things that I had seen and done over the course of my patrol career, because I would have written a book about that stuff. Remember a supervisor who was in my row of lockers, he would talk about a funny incident every day in the locker room. I'm like, how do you remember this stuff? He goes, actually, I write it in a log. I'm like, oh, I should do that. I never did. But for you, I'll start with you and then go to Chris. Funny stories. We talked about impactful debriefs. Let's go to funny, because there's a lot of funny. Anything that comes to mind, Mikey, that you can talk about?
Yeah, certainly. So a lot of people have nicknames, and one thing we know about nicknames is that like you don't get to choose your nickname, right? Something happens and that's going to be your nickname, right? Your colleagues will kind of dictate that. So I'll tell you a story about how I got my nickname and what it is. So early 2023, there was a rash of robberies across the GTA. All kinds of robberies, like multiple robberies a day by the same crew, and they were hitting all of the major cities surrounding Toronto. And they were quick. They were in and out, and they were doing different kinds of retail businesses, and so they were hard to predict. They were doing jewelry stores, they were doing banks, they did an electronics store, and there was a lot of news about them, but they were quick. There was 4 of them. They were in and out, and poof, they were gone. And all they really had was the suspect vehicle description and some of the suspect descriptors, but of course they were masked up. But they were driving an old 2008 Mazda 3 with stolen plates on it, and I knew just what those looked like because I drove one for a little bit in high school. I was hoping for a shot of them. I was working day shift. I hear about them striking in neighboring regions, and I wanted a piece of these guys. And on the Thursday, they struck in York region. They hit an electronics store, and we were grounded for weather. And there was nothing we could do. And I still remember just the feeling of they finally hit, and we can't go because it was January. We get a lot of weather days in Canada in January. But the next day, Friday, we got flyable weather. It's still not great, but I'm thinking I hope these guys hit again. And sure enough, bingo, the call comes in. They just done a bank in Richmond Hill, a city not far from where our air station was at the time. And boom, we launch them a chopper. And I'm scanning, I'm looking for a Mazda 3. I'm kind of trying to predict the egress routes and where might they go next. But in a region of 2 million people, like it's kind of hard to pick a car without some help. So we got we got the clue that we needed. A camera saw this car ramping onto a major highway and the direction it was going. So boom, let's go. We fly over that highway. I'm scanning every car, and there's lots of them. And I'm thinking, geez, at least it's a fairly distinct car. And then we get an update from another camera saw it ramping off in a city a few miles from where we were. So we're still behind the play, and we don't have a lot of cameras or stationary plate readers or anything. Like, I know this is our last clue, our last chance. Like, this car is going to be in the wind shortly. But we get where it ramped off, and so probably 4 or 5 minutes behind. But we get to the exit. I gotta choose. Did it go north? Did it go south? I don't know. I choose south. There's more. North was kind of the boonies. Didn't make sense that they would go that way. So boom, we start searching south. We get about 5 kilometers south, and I'm zooming in on our MX-10, checking every car. And sure enough, boom, there it is. Mazda 3, 2008. I could see it's got those plates on it, just as it's turning off too. And I couldn't believe that we actually found it. Like, that in that moment, wow, this is it. And our ICS is recorded. Everything's recorded on the video. And just kind of overcome in the moment. Like, I turned to the pilot and I said, oh, this is it. This is Bobby big time now.
Bobby big time.
Silly thing to say, but like just recognizing the gravity that we got this high value target. This is it. You get your game face on, bro. This is Bobby big time. And anyways, fast forward. Well, we start trying to be somewhat covert, hanging onto this car because our resources aren't there yet. They're responding they're still 30 minutes out. They'll probably put their foot down and get there in 20, but we got to hang on to it until then. And they go right to a jewelry store, and out comes they park around the corner. Out comes just one guy. The car's still loaded with bad guys, and I'm able to give the address of this jewelry store that these guys are going into. A phone call is placed in advance. They lock the doors. They don't let these guys in. So whatever, defeated, they go back to their car, and off they go. And we're still trying to covertly follow them while our resources are responding. We got surveillance units coming. We got the robbery squad coming. Canines coming. Tax coming. Everybody's coming, but they need time to get there. And sure enough, these guys, they go to a Scotia Bank, a popular Canadian bank, just as the resources are arriving. And they don't have time to do a takedown before, because everybody's kind of getting into place. So the plan is like, all right, don't do anything in the bank. Wait till they come out and we'll take them. And sure enough, they pull up to the front doors. In they go, all 4 of them, masked up. Guns out, violent takeover style robberies, jumping on the counters, screaming at people, filling their bags with cash, and then it was less than 60 seconds. They're back out and they're to their car, and then our units converge, box in the car, take a few in custody right away. A couple foot pursuits that don't last long, so they end up getting everybody. Huge success. And right away, everybody wants the helicopter video, and it's going around the department, and it must have been watched by everybody in the department. And I got emails from people I'd never even met saying, "Ha, Bobby big time! Good job, Bobby big time!" Like, and now years later, that's what the robbery squad calls me, Bobby big time. Hey, Bob, what's going on? Robert, large occasion. I can't shake it now. That one silly
Robert,
thing I said.
Occasion?
Yeah.
Oh
that's
God,
a more
that's
formal version, but I can't shake it. And just something you say in the moment, not even, just between you and your buddy, but it's on the recording. And now that's
wow.
it. That's me.
What a great caper too. I mean, oh my gosh, that's an incredible case of tenacity and determination and proactive policing and all this good stuff. I'm going, how's this going to be funny? Man, this is incredible. This is really a cool caper. Now I know, Bobby.
Yeah, I wish people remembered, the bad guys going to jail, but all they remember is Bobby big time. So
that's great.
So going back to earlier when I'm talking about debriefs and bringing the video footage down that has the ICS footage in there, You're probably like, nah, we're good. We don't need the ICS footage.
Let's try not doing that. Yeah.
What's cool about what you talked about is it is funny, but it highlights the value of airborne law enforcement, right?
Oh yeah.
There's no other resource that could have done what you did and your crew did that day. And talk about, that violent takeover. Those people are terrorizing the folks of your response area. And you guys were able to come in and positively impact that investigation and get those guys in custody. How cool is that? Jack, I'd imagine as he's talking about that, you're thinking of SIS and all the operations that they did. Yeah. And that was their cup of tea. And you guys were involved with that quite a bit, right? From a airborne perspective.
Yeah. The difference was that we would follow these guys. I mean, there were surveillance teams following them. We were just assisting the surveillance. Whereas Bobby Big Time here, he initiated that. He launched for it. He found them. So that's the big difference. But the takedown part is, it made me think of SIS. You read my mind again, John, and I was thinking how many banks, guys came out of, only to be surprised that they've been being watched for the past, few days and as possible suspects. And then they just prove it by going and hitting it. But what really hit me about your story there, Mikey, is that you prevented a crime. I mean, absolutely prevented a crime at that jewelry store. And although the bank didn't work out that way, that's okay. I mean, it happened. But think of the crimes that you prevented in the future by getting those guys. Had you not done all of that work and coordinated all the units and and your dispatch who called the jewelry store and who, doing all that, those guys would have kept hitting. I mean, the fact that they did hit two places, one attempted, one hit while you were watching them. I mean, that's incredible. Yeah. That's incredible. Yeah. That's an active crew right there that's going to keep terrorizing and robbing the people that you're sworn to protect. That is a great story. It's one of the best ones we've heard. And
it was rewarding catching those guys.
Yeah. That's a career one right there to me. If I had that, I go, well, I can quit now. Yeah.
It certainly was. And our robbery squad ended up hosting the North American Robbery Conference that year and had investigators from across North America, including FBI there. And they used that as the featured case. So it was a great success, but still too much put on the Bobby Big Time.
Oh no, that's a feather in your cap, man.
If you're gonna say something stupid on ICS, don't make it the featured case of the year. But
it's so perfect. Cool. It is just perfect. It's like the perfect. All the stars aligned. We're gonna get comedy out of this. We're gonna take down the most active robbery crew in Toronto area, and we're gonna have great police work. I mean. Oh God, that's fantastic.
Well, the funny thing is I didn't remember saying it either. So after the video went around a few times, I got a couple of emails. I'm like, what are they talking about? Yeah.
Where did it come from? So. Mikey, where did that come from? Was it a quote
just
from
playing
a TV
sports
show?
Growing up? No, I mean, playing sports growing up. That clutch player on your team, you would call Bobby Big Time.
Yeah.
And I was describing the events unfolding as this is a Bobby Big Time event.
Yes.
So we better act like Bobby Big Times ourselves and bring this home for the boys. But
priceless. Yeah. Well, we know what the thumbnail is for the podcast now, John. Bobby Big Time on the Hangar Z.
That might be the title. I might be able to get that audio clip for you.
I think we got to work on that. What do you think, Bobby?
Yeah. I don't know. I think I've had it removed from the internet. Yeah.
Oh, great work. Great work, Mikey. That is fantastic policing, and fantastic to hear that as an aircrew member, you took your aggressive, proactive, chase them down attitude, and you took it into the cockpit and you followed through with it. I love it.
Yeah, obviously we were just a small cog in the machine, and without an incredible response from just about every unit in our organization, it wouldn't have happened. But I was happy just to get the opportunity to get a shot at these guys.
Yeah, good job.
Did you get a good deal on anything out of that jewelry store? I mean, geez, that jewelry store, they should have a Bobby Big Time sale or something, where they go, wow, these guys up there, they were the reason we didn't get people coming in here with, to rob us. That's amazing. Yeah. There's not too many, I just can't think of a case where that came up like that. That's really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Those are the kind of cases that prove the worth of your program, and it leads to the expansion of future airframes, more mission equipment, and all the stuff that we'll talk about later. Again, I wish I had kept a log of the things that I saw and did over the course of my career, because I've forgotten a lot of them, and the details of most of them are not accurate anymore, which I guess can make the story better. But I just don't recall all the details.
Chris, any nicknames that we need to know about before we go for any further?
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Hangar Z podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories that promote the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Lastly, stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors. Cheers. Thanks to our sponsor, AEM. See why the P122 and P132 are the preferred console upgrades for the AS350 H125 Special Mission Aircraft. AEM's avionics consoles are a lightweight yet rugged cockpit upgrade for airborne law enforcement and utility operators. Visit aem-corp.com/avionics consoles.
Thank you to our sponsor, Shotover. Shotover Systems is the leading developer and manufacturer of high-performance gyro-stabilized cameras with advanced real-time AR mapping and mission management, all backed by unparalleled custom training and support. Now offering the M2 multi-sensor system, sole 6-axis EO/IR platform with 4K Ultra HD color and infrared technology. Ideal for law enforcement and defense. Offered with real-time AR overlays to quickly identify streets, weather, and traffic. Automated license plate recognition, 24 megapixel digital photographs, and automated steering and tracking.
Thank you to our sponsor, BLR Aerospace. BLR Aerospace's revolutionary fast fin system improves performance and enhances safety across various helicopter platforms. This cutting-edge aftermarket solution improves tail rotor effectiveness, stability, and payload capacity while reducing fuel consumption and pilot fatigue. Trusted globally, FastFin delivers unmatched control, efficiency, and reliabilities for diverse helicopter operations. Learn more at blraerospace.com. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicast in a partnership with Vertical Valor Magazine. We had the privilege of sitting down with Sergeant Chris Duffield and Officer Mikey Machin from the York Regional Police Air Support Unit to discuss their evolving operations, the importance of integrated training, and the power of debriefing in law enforcement. From proactive policing and the role of technology to the camaraderie that drives their success, their stories highlight the vital role of a strong, coordinated air support unit. Special thanks to Mikey for sharing the story behind his nickname, Bobby Big Time. A great reminder of how an effective air support unit can make a huge difference.